Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this council meeting this evening on the 17th of March 2025. I'll ask you to remain standing and silent while my chaplain Phil Pusey, MBE, leads us in prayer.
Today is St Patrick's Day, Ireland's patron saint, celebrated loudly and raucously with a glass or two of the black nectar, Irish champagne as it's sometimes known. So today I thought I'd share an Irish prayer attributed to St Patrick as you meet to do the council's business. As we rise today, may the strength of God pilot us, the power of God uphold us, the wisdom of God guide us. May the eye of God look before us, the ear of God hear us, and the word of God speak for us. May the hand of God protect us, the way of God lie before us, the shield of God defend us, and the host of God save us. May Christ shield us today, Christ with us, Christ before us, Christ behind us, Christ in us, Christ beneath us, Christ above us, Christ on our right and on our left, Christ when we lie down, Christ when we sit, Christ when we stand, Christ in the heart of everyone who thinks of us, Christ in the mouth of everyone who speaks of us, Christ in every eye that sees us and in every ear that hears us. May your grace, Lord, always be ours today and every day. Amen.
Thank you. Just may I remind everyone that the meeting will be broadcast, so will you stand when you speak and press your button so we can hear you? Thanks very much. Okay, you can sit down. Thank you. Can I ask for apologies, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Apologies have been received from the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Kim Smith, and Councillor Hadley. Thank you.
And are there any declarations of interest? No? Good. Move to item 3 then, minutes of the previous council meeting. I propose approval of the public minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of February 2025. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you. Councillor Fitzpatrick. Can we move to the vote? All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. There are no announcements today and there are no urgent business. So we move on to item 6. I invite the Leader of the Council to put forward the motion, item 6, on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, fellow councillors. Always very happy to do a motion like this, and I so move that the Mayor present a certificate to a long-serving officer in recognition of their service to the Council of 35 years and above. I ask for a seconder, and then the Chief Executive will come forward and give us a little bit more detail.
Okay, can we have a seconder, please? Thank you. Councillor Fletcher, Chief Executive.
Thank you, Mayor. Members, for those of you that don't know him, let me introduce you to Den Nye, just sitting over there next to Mike Hovers. Den started at ESBC on the 14th of August 1989 as an HGV driver, driving street cleaning vehicles and performing labouring duties. In 2010, Den became the street cleaning supervisor, and since September 2016, he's been the maintenance technician in the facilities team. Den is cherished by his colleagues, I know that for sure, He has a dry, sarcastic sense of humour, and he loves a good wind-up, I'm told, as well. He's extremely practical, and you'd expect that, wouldn't you? He's the maintenance technician. It can be often found repairing and fixing pieces of equipment. So much so, I can sometimes hear him in the office above mine, such as the noise that he makes from time to time. But on a very serious point, he's a very calm, loyal and friendly member of staff who's a pleasure to know. I'd like to thank him for his many years of service and also wish him every happiness for the future and health as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to say anything? Okay, so I'll move to present a medal and a certificate. Thank you. Apologies to everyone. It's taken me a little bit of time getting used to one crutch instead of two. So item 7 is the Monitoring Officer's annual report. So I'll ask the officer to come and present.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, the purpose of this report is to provide an annual review of the discharge of the Monitoring Officer's duties. You'll be aware, councillors, that the Monitoring Officer is a statutory appointment under Section 5 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989. As the head of legal and regulatory, I perform this role. These duties are discharged in accordance with legislative requirements, relevant government guidance and the council's constitution. You will also see, councillors, that the report refers to the requirement under Section 5 of the 1989 Act to appoint a Deputy Monitoring Officer. To this end, the council has two. Mrs Penelope James and Mr Glenn McCusker continue to act as Deputy Monitoring Officers for the council. In terms of our processes, we have arrangements in place through our Code of Conduct and Complaints process to respond to any breaches of standards, and those arrangements are working satisfactorily at the moment. Now, in terms of standards matters, both myself and the council's independent persons, when required, continue to give informal advice, and myself and the council's Deputy Monitoring Officers undertake relevant inquiries into allegations of misconduct, and this extends to both borough and parish councillors. Since the last annual report in March 2024, there have been 4 standards complaints. That's the same figure as last year, but if we go back to March 2023, then you may recall a significantly higher number. So we remain at relatively low figures, councillors, and there are other matters which come in alongside formal complaints, for example, general conversations with other councillors or residents, but they're not included in that 4 figure because they do not always amount to a formal standards complaint. Furthermore, councillors, no standards hearings have taken place in the last year, but in terms of the 4 complaints referred to, 2 of those complaints are parish council complaints. One was resolved informally, and the other is currently being considered by an external investigator. The other 2 complaints were submitted against 2 ESBC councillors. One of these matters was recently concluded, and I have sent out my decision notice on that matter. No breach occurred. The second of those complaints was considered by one of the council's deputy monitoring officers, Mr. Glenn McCusker, who resolved that no further action was required. A concluding remark, councillors, are that the 2 investigations referred to have taken slightly longer than expected, but there have been individual and personal reasons for those lengths of time. More often than not, it's found that actually concluding an investigation is the longest part of the process. But I think we could take a bit of positivity from the number of complaints actually received. In terms of the council's code of conduct, the Localism Act 2011 requires the council and parish and town councils for which it is responsible to adopt a code of conduct for councillors. I can confirm that all relevant councils have adopted a code. Moreover, all members of the Borough Council have completed their declaration of interest forms, and indeed members are asked to update their declarations annually, even if no changes are required. But to confirm, no declarations are outstanding from our Borough Councillors. In terms of parish and town councils, we are currently waiting declarations from members of Staffordshire Hill and Yoxall, and as the monitoring officer, I have formally written to them to request those documents. Looking at the Constitution, you'll be aware, councillors, that arrangements have continued to review and monitor the operation of the document. A full review of the Constitution took place and was approved by full council in December 2024, and subsequent amendments took place last month following the implementation of the Procurement Act 2023. Any further changes that need to take place, of course, are always brought before full council. Finally, councillors, I will mention the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000, also known as RIPA, and would draw your attention to the information provided in the report. But this essentially relates to covert surveillance for which authorisation needs to be obtained. However, in summary, this council does not engage RIPA, and we haven't done so for some time, so no authorisations have been given. Nevertheless, RIPA training was arranged for relevant officers in January 2025, and the policy was updated at a meeting of the council's corporate management team last month. RIPA training for staff continues to take place annually to ensure that all staff are fully appraised of all changes in procedure and legislation. And so that concludes my report, councillors and Mayor. The report is for noting, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions? No? We still need a proposer and a seconder, so can I have a proposer, please?
Apologies, Mayor, it's for noting.
Okay, sorry, it's the report is to be noted. Definitely says it. So, to move on to item 8, devolution and reorganisation in Staffordshire and Stoke. And I invite the leader of the council to present this report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, fellow councillors. Devolution and reorganisation in Staffordshire. Purpose of the report is East Staffordshire Borough Council is required by government to respond in partnership with the Staffordshire Leaders Board to the requirements of the English Devolution White Paper, December 24, and the Minister's letter, Minister of Local Government, that he sent to us all on the 5th of February. We are expected to respond and engage. I know that many of you attended the member briefing last Thursday on this topic. Many questions were asked, and I believe it was a good get-together. Views were aired. I think I reminded members then that the ministerial letter on the 5th of February was not sent to East Staffordshire Borough Council as an individual council. it was sent jointly to all 10 councils in Staffordshire, requesting that we work together jointly and submit a jointly agreed single submission. The Minister does accept now that those sort of submissions, single submissions, could contain more than one option, and the Staffordshire Leaders Board are working to form a joint submission that goes to the government on the 21st of March. The Leaders Board will be meeting on Wednesday of this week, and we believe we're in a good position to form a joint submission. This joint submission is not legally binding, it's not a decision-making process, it's the first step in engaging with the government's, the minister's, statutory invitation. So we're required to do that. We did discuss the report. Councils are working together. Recommendations at the back of the report, I'll just turn to them now, at 13, allow us the flexibility to look at all options. We're not committing to one area. We want to gather the evidence between March and the final submission in November the 28th. So I think the flexibility within these recommendations allows us to see what is in the best interest of our residents, our businesses, our partners, our stakeholders, what's in the best interest of Staffordshire. Does the evidence stack up? Is there financial stability in these new unitary authorities that are being proposed? We have an agreement at the moment jointly with all councils in Staffordshire that we believe that the county whole area with the City of Stoke would make a good upper tier strategic authority. We're working on the rest, and I believe we're making progress. This council will absolutely debate any final submission before it's submitted, so there will be time for that. So I move the recommendations at 13 and look for a seconder. Happy to take any questions if there are any, but conscious that we did take a lot on Thursday. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So do we have a seconder? Councillor Fletcher. So are there any questions, or does anybody want to say anything? No? Okay then. So we can move to the vote. Sorry, Councillor Allen, I didn't see you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I was a little bit late. The leader talks about there being enough flexibility within the recommendations and within the report to look at various different options, but that isn't really what 13.1 suggests, because 13.1 says, 13.2 suggests that we look, the ESBC continues to work with districts and the south of Staffordshire to evidence and develop a proposal for southern Staffordshire unitary. So that suggests to me that we are only going to be looking at southern Staffordshire, and that East Staffordshire would be included in that. So I'm not really sure that what the leader said or it matches with what this recommendation is saying. He also talks about a great deal of progress that's been made, and yes, there was lots of questions asked at the member briefing on Thursday, Friday last week. But it was less of a member briefing and more of a question and answer session, which I accept. And whilst there was lots of questions, there wasn't really a lot of detail about what progress has been made either. So I'm not entirely sure that I could agree with 13.1 either. The problem with these recommendations is that it is tying East Staffordshire to a set of recommendations and a pattern that we are simply only interested in southern in a southern unitary and working with southern local authorities. And in terms of what we already know, which is very little, has to be said, I think 4 weeks ago, the Leaders Board was supposed to work on a joint submission coming to the end of this month. 3 weeks ago, Stoke City Council said that announced that they got plans to do a northern unitary, including Staffs Moorlands, Newcastle, and the city. And then only 2 weeks ago, the County Council came forward with plans that included, that left Stoke City Unitary Council as it is and removed 2 tier in the rest of the county. And so I'm not really sure what joint plan the leader suggested we are working on, because there doesn't seem to be one. There seems to be different councils doing different things, and this ties us to a pattern which I'm not necessarily supportive of. This is all coming under the guise of devolution and reorganisation, both of which is a little bit odd, because it's not really devolution. This is about ministers in government in London telling local people what they are to be doing, and they have the audacity, in fact, to try and get support from local councils to do what they know isn't supportive of locally. And in terms of reorganisation at such a pace that it can't possibly be organised, which sounds a little bit silly too. The problem with this is that it's going through far too quickly. And if it is not done carefully and at a pace that the local government in Staffordshire and other areas in the country, and business as well, and communities can digest and understand what is happening, it is going to end up in disaster. And that will be at the cost of vital council services, things that East Staffordshire Borough Council does now, but also, I would argue, more important council services like health and social care and education that the County Council and other unitary councils also are responsible for. And if those things go wrong, and this is not done carefully and with the support of the public, there is no telling what amount of damage could happen to communities, not just in Staffordshire, but all over the country as well. And so I can't support the recommendations that are in front of us, and that is kind of why we've also put forward our own motion on notice to that effect. Not necessarily that we can't support reorganisation and devolution, because local government does need to be devolved more powers, and I note that whilst I was the leader and whilst Councillor Fitzpatrick has been the leader, we have tried to use a leaders board to demonstrate to government over 2 different political persuasions that local government can be trusted with more power to the benefit of local people. Unfortunately, nothing has happened on that front, and instead we are faced with the prospect of being forced into a pattern, into an arrangement which we've had little time to think about, and which could damage our local communities and services that councils are currently providing. And we know how important how important local government is and the services that councils provide. We only have to look to COVID. It was the government that asked councils to deliver so many support schemes and funds, and we were credited, local government was credited across the country with the COVID recovery and helping communities get back on their own 2 feet, and that it wasn't more damaging and dangerous than it was. So if we were to experience another pandemic during this transition, it could be absolutely disastrous. And then if we think about the damage to the council in terms of its employees, because if I was an employee working at ESBC or any council that's facing reorganisation, I'm not too sure I'd hang about. I think I'd probably be moving to the private sector where there is more stability, certainly than there seems to be in local government right now. And that then means that there's going to be a talent drain on local government, and the excellent officers that work for East Staffordshire Borough Council and other councils in Staffordshire will just move out of local government employment and into more stable employment elsewhere. And then you're left with trying to find those spaces, backfill those positions at a fixed term contract, probably short employment, because the council is not going to cease to exist, is going to cease to exist in the not too distant future. I personally think that local government needs to be reorganised and has needed to be reorganised for a great deal of time, but my views haven't been considered No one's asked me what I think about it, and no one's really asking anybody in local government or any of the residents either. This is just being driven from the top. This is ministers in London dictating to local council and local people. And that is why I can't support this report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, does anybody else want to speak? Councillor Hudson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I didn't ask to speak straight away because I wanted to listen to what other members of the Chamber were going to say about it. We at the County Council voted on this on Thursday of last week, and there's a lot of debate from the councillors. There wasn't a lot of debate from the Labour councillors, unfortunately, but Mrs Atkins did actually get up and speak at the end of the debate. It's sad that we've got to change things because I really think that the two-tier system works very well. In fact, it's a three-tier system, isn't it, really? Because we've got our parish councillors that do such a lot of good work with us. And no thought was given to the parish councils at all. So when people are asking, well, what about the parish councils? Well, nobody knew because they weren't mentioned. We've already voted on it at the county council, and I looked at it from the point of view of Uttoxeter, and I asked residents what they thought about it, and they didn't want to be part of Stoke-on-Trent City Council, didn't want to be part of that. They wanted to be part of rural Staffordshire. So the reason that I supported the county's proposals was that it would be a mayor of a unitary area with Stoke-on-Trent remaining as they are and the other 8 boroughs and districts forming the other part. And that's why I voted for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very eloquently, Leader of the Opposition saying, and my fellow colleague from the county also saying, but they forgot to mention the silence from His Majesty's loyal opposition leader, Kemi Badenoch. Why there is no vigorous opposition to these proposals? If you feel that somebody from London is telling us what to do, not to do, so why they didn't stand up and saying these things? The challenge is that on the Thursday, what we explored in the county, that if we don't put the proposal forward, we will be going against the tide. That's why even the Conservative control leader is proposing this one and they are going for it. This is the fact. Do we need it? Personally, I don't. But if we don't put a proposal, we will be imposed upon it. I am standing here not as just a Labour councillor, but my loyalty to the people of Anglesey, my loyalty to the people of East Staffordshire. And I am going to support the leader's guidance, and I believe whatever in front of us, it should be the best interest for all our residents. Madam Mayor, this is such a unique town, and we have achieved so many things, especially from my faith, my community, what we've seen. If anybody dies from Muslim faith, within hours, we managed to do the burials and get the death certificates, and also the council has very rightly given us the permission to access to the burial within 24/7 to there. Similarly, Madam Mayor, as a Muslim councillor, as a Muslim mayor, it was my proudest moment. In many, many occasions, I've been to the church and welcomed their new recruitment and met with many occasions with the bishops. Somebody told me very occasional, very rather with the humor, that you have spent more time in the church than in your mosque. And I feel this is our communication, this is our pride in a town. Madam Mayor, my main concern is the heritage. I am not a Burtonian, but I am the proud father of 3 Burtonians. I would like to see a cast iron guarantee from my leader and the leader of the council. Whatever it happens, we will protect our heritage. With the heritage, we can connect with our past, and we can move forward with our glorious present. Can I just ask the leader very humbly and respectfully, will he take any step or whatever it takes, he will come forward and protect those. For example, the chain you are wearing, I've been told one of the best in the whole county, if not all over the West Midlands. The Mayoress's chain is called Chain of Burton, which was built in 1910, was found. And this is one of the best in the whole country. So we got this iconic building as well. Last thing we want, it has been sold to somewhere. So Madam Mayor, through you, I'm sure, and I might believe, and I'm sure that leader will reassure my expectations and my hope. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for your indulgence.
Thank you. Councillor Sankey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can certainly understand Councillor Sain's comments. I have been looking, as boring as I am, at looking at other unitaries that have taken place in recent years. And I have to say to Councillor Sain that ones that get into difficulties, and there are quite a number of them, do end up, and I could give lists of them, do end up selling the assets. So I think, I'm afraid, much as heritage is important, because when it's gone, it's gone. And so I feel quite sorry. So I'm afraid the option of doing that will disappear out of our hands, out of our control. It will go to this unitary authority. And financially, a number of unitaries have got into difficulties and they've been given permission to sell certain assets. I could list them as well. So I think, yes, I understand the sentiment, but I'm afraid once we go down this route, don't expect it to be a cast-iron guarantee because it won't hold. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Did I see Councillor Wildman, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councillor Hussain. This building, your chains, Mayoress's chains, the robes, the mace should be protected, absolutely, as a former mayor. And you know, one thing the reason I can't support this this motion really is purely because I really don't like being pushed into something that I don't think we should have to do. We are being pushed into this. At the meeting recently, lots of you guys are on this side of the bench, on the chamber, were actually saying, my goodness, you know, we don't like this, we don't want this. And yet, we're still going to have to be pushed into it. It wasn't in your manifesto. So, by the way, whatever Kemi Badenoch says or doesn't say is irrelevant because, you know, we're not in power. She's not in power. It's your guys on Sir Keir Starmer and his friends that are doing this to us. I am really worried about our staff, that you know, maybe some of them are going to lose their jobs or retire early, that they don't need to be. There are so many things, the unknowns that is going to take part. Maybe in November, perhaps in November, we can actually say, you know, have a proper vote. Do we agree or do we not? But I don't like being pushed into something, and it's well documented, my record of voting. When I don't like something, I vote against. I stand up and I vote against it. Now, you know, Councillor Fletcher there is writing something down, and I appreciate that. But you understand. So anyway, but just bear that in mind, and thank you, Madam Mayor, for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Walker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had to get up because I've never heard anybody say that we said, or certainly me say, my goodness. I'm not sure whether I know how to say it, but listen, I'm in a real strange position where I actually agree with most of the things that have been said in this side of that side of the chamber. I have got grave concerns about the staff. and how this is going to go forward. As that uncertainty grows, people get nervous, people start looking for other jobs. So yes, we do share that concern. We voiced that concern the other night, but I will support this report initially, but we will watch the progress of this. I will watch the progress of this, because it also concerns me that if you read the report, it says the money isn't there to finance it. We've got to look at it ourselves. We've possibly got to have another MTFS. And if, and I do say if, we're in a position where that starts to affect services and it starts to affect staff, to pay for this thing going forward, then I've obviously got to think again which way we go with it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Councillor Russell-Locke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with most of the things that have been said here this evening. I'd like to pick up on one of the points that Councillor Hudson actually raised in relation to parish councils. I think we've got a missed opportunity in that list of recommendations. So far, because of the timescales, parish councils have been left out of everything. We should really have added something into the recommendations to say we would engage and work with and support the parish councils. They are the lowest level of our government. If we don't listen to them, if we don't work with them, who will in this? They'll get ignored all the way through. So I would have liked to have seen 13.4 mention engaging with the parish councils as well as businesses and residents more generally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Listen, we've heard a lot this evening about this, but I think we're a bit premature in all of this. Everyone's airing their concern. At the moment, the process is, whether we like it or not, the process is that we have to engage. We have to engage. We cannot walk away from it. We don't have a choice. So surely, what this says is it highlights or details the work which has been done to date, and I know there has been a lot of work which has been done by the leader and the chief executive, and we need to build on that. And when it comes to the detail and the heritage and other things and service delivery, that is to come later on once those proposals develop and mature in time. But to say that we've got all of these concerns and then we're going to stand back and not engage, I'm afraid that is not an option. I think we need to remain positive and like I say, collaborate, engage, such that we can, whatever the proposal comes forward, then our concerns or the concerns of the residents of East Staffordshire and the heritage and the services and everything else which has been talked about is actually taken forward in a constructive manner, rather than whinge and just say simply we are against it. So, I would support the work which has been done so far and the roadmap which has been laid forward and the recommendations in these recommendations here. So I will support, and I urge everyone to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Clark and then Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It feels a bit at the moment that a lot of councillors at local government, not just in this council but across the country, quite strongly disagree with this. And I think the body of evidence as well that are out there with existing unitaries and where reorganisations have taken place actually show that this won't be the silver bullet that the Labour government think it will be in terms of resolving finances or increasing local democracy. In fact, just over the past couple of days, Suffolk Council, a unitary that was formed in 2023, has come out and said how they're potentially facing financial hardship going forward. And there's a long body of evidence showing that the push towards unitaries actually lowers the quality of local democracy. It takes away the local representative element, and it makes local councillors less tied to their local area. It makes them more difficult for residents to engage with on a personal level, and it also makes it more difficult for residents to engage with at an organisational level. What would no doubt happen under a reorganisation in Staffordshire is that we'd actually see great assets like this building, where local residents can come and visit, moved and centralised to Stafford. In fact, we've seen it with Staffordshire County Council and some of the wider services that they have used and had over time. I think a great example of that is the archive service. There used to be a well-established archive in pretty much every town within Staffordshire that would have local historians manning them, and from experience of when I was doing my dissertation at uni, they were always full of local residents just trying to learn about their local history and engage with their family members, the town that they grow up in, and the heritage. And over time, cost-cutting, and it makes sense to centralise these services, means that all of these great services are cut, they're centralised in Staffordshire, and it puts further barriers for the most vulnerable people within local areas to actually engage with it. It feels a bit at the moment like all of these councils and us as councillors are lemmings all walking towards a cliff edge. And I think the argument being made by the administration at the moment is that, well, whilst we know we're walking to a cliff edge, let's not stand out of the crowd now and have that debate and discussion. Let's actually wait until we get to the ledge before we make a decision if we jump off it or not. And I just don't think that feels right. And I think the government are going to do what they want regardless of what we choose. But I think it's right for our residents, and I think it's right that us as a council put ourselves out there and say, actually, we don't agree with this, and we don't think it would be helpful for our residents, and that we don't think it would be helpful going forward. I also think there's an issue with the report itself in terms of recommendation 13.2, which currently ties us quite rigidly towards one specific approach, an approach which has had no consultation with residents, it's had no discussion on the merits or benefits of it in a wider forum, and it automatically, by pitching itself and hanging the colours around a South Staffordshire unitary, automatically takes off the table the discussion around the rest of those potential options. So I think for those reasons, I just can't find myself supporting this in terms of either the overarching principles of it or the report itself being too far advanced in terms of what it's proposing. And I don't think that's to discredit the work that has been done to date with the Leaders Board or with officers to actually engage on the topic. I just don't think that this is an idea that will work well for residents of East Staffordshire or protect our local heritage.
Okay, thank you, Professor Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to say I take offence at the tone of saying that we are whinging. This is the first opportunity that we as councillors have had to debate this in a public forum. So I would just like to say I'm a little bit disappointed with that tone. We're not whinging, we're giving our points of view. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any more questions before I go to Councillor Fletcher? Do you want to speak, Councillor Fletcher? Okay, in which case I'm going to go back to Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is there any more questions? I think there was only one question from Councillor Hussain about would heritage, would I give him a commitment that heritage and our assets and that are protected. I'll do everything I absolutely can. Discussions are taking place about that very thing, and that will come in the detail. Parish councils as well is a big point of the devolution white paper. It's in there. They need to be rewired in the government's words, and I actually see a pivotal role for parish councils moving forward. There absolutely was not enough time to go into meaningful consultation with parish councils, residents, businesses, stakeholders, partners. Absolutely not. And that will be in what we respond to government. All 10 councils are saying the same thing, that we haven't had time to do that, but we intend to do it, and I know government intend to do it as well. I'm really surprised because Councillor Allen seemed to be sort of talking against his own motion that's later in the meeting. I've known that we had 2 phone calls about a month ago. We were on the same page. You were talking about you don't believe in 2-tier government. You like the idea of unitary authorities. You were quite happy that Uttoxeter could be hived off in the north of the borough, but you've changed completely. So your credibility is sort of wavering from one side to the other on this topic. Now, I've said it before, the 10 councils in Staffordshire are committed to submitting a joint proposal. It may have more than one option, and eventually when it's submitted, and I hope we'll agree that on Wednesday, it will not include, this submission will not include the Stoke paper that you've seen. It will not include the county paper that you've seen. This is a joint proposal that moves on the update and gives government the answers they want, that we will consider this, we will engage, there are options, and as we gather the evidence between April and November, which will come at a cost, gathering that evidence, that we will seek the best options on this. So there is no, we're stuck in two options and that. It's not. The evidence will show us what can be achieved, what is best for our area, best for Staffordshire, best for East Staffordshire. So no foregone conclusions at this point. And these recommendations are just that, an update, a next steps sort of pointer, and that is all. I ask Council to support him. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So now we'll move to the vote. So those in favour, please raise your hands. Those against? And those abstaining? Thank you. So the motion is carried. So now we move to item 9, which is the leader and cabinet member statements. So once again, I invite the leader and cabinet members to come forward to present their statements to council. These are to be received and noted, but there will be an opportunity to ask questions. Yes. So, leader, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors. Cabinet member statements, as you know, mainly brought to you for any questions you might have and to be received and noted. These then form the corporate plan. I don't want to go into too much depth. I mean, there are 6 of us, so I'll skip through some of it. 24-25, not a bad year in my opinion. We did introduce the principle of a citizens' jury. We do intend to use that next year on a topic. We know the path to take, and that will help us in that. One big success of last year was what we have in front of us here and around the room, embedded the live streaming of public meetings. And it's a great pleasure to know that we've done it to all of our public meetings now. And congratulations to members. You seem to have taken to it, and it's working very well. Last year was a very busy year on the election front. The Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner, then general election at short notice, delivered successfully, as this council always does with elections, always runs smoothly, and then obviously the by-election in Stretton. Moving over the page, members will know that last month we brought a report to council on the Procurement Act that updated our procurement policy and our contract procedure rules, and that was implemented. We recruit, great pleasure, I think she's actually in the room, so I'm not going to mention her name, but we did recruit a corporate services apprentice, which was a great opportunity for a young person to develop a career in local government. I've got to say, though, that the individual was that good and applied for that she's now got a permanent position within the establishment. So I need to go back to that recruitment apprentice thing with the officers and try and plug that gap, because that was a real great success. Improving the council's assets. Yes, we've now replaced the shutters on the Yeoman industrial estate. Other two, increasing staff availability, payment of creditors, sort of normal day-to-day business. Moving on to our objectives for 25-26 in this portfolio. Yes, the county council elections are going ahead. That was a bit of a surprise at one point. So we will deliver those elections. As I mentioned, we will undertake a citizens' jury on the glyphosate use and get some steer of the right direction with that. We're going to review our petition scheme, because I'm sure everyone will agree that it needs clarifying on what petitions come, who speaks, when, calling them. It's a bit muddy at the moment, and that needs to be refreshed and made clear. Local government reorganisation, I asked for this target to be put in because this council and all councils in Staffordshire really do need to find something to reply to government to put forward for that deadline of November 28th. If this doesn't go away, we have to be prepared. So that target is there for that reason. Improving the council's assets. We have a property in New Street that is in a bit of a bad way, and we do, as responsible landowners and landlords, we have to put that right, and there is a target to do that. I've also asked that we compile a list of what condition surveys we need, so we can look at it, try and program some of that in. And the last thing I wanted the department to do, which is probably quite timely, is to review our property disposal policy. Believe it or not, since this talk of the previous item has come out, there are parish councils and other bodies approaching us because they think we may not be here in a few years' time. So that policy needs to be reviewed in the right sense. Enhancing resilience planning, category 1 responder. We intend to do some practical training on that, our scenarios, and that's a target. As always, our digital enhancements work will go into some gear this coming year. Improving ICT, that's an ongoing thing, always. It's so new and advances so quick that we always have to keep on top of it. We also, as you know, need to start reviewing our hardware, renewing the hardware. Some of us have got machines that are very, very old. Some have got some newer versions. So that plan will commence this year, and we'll take out the old ones first. And again, just finishing on always business as usual, increasing staff availability and improving payment to creditors. The targets are all listed. Happy to take any questions on any specific target, if there are any.
Any questions? Councillor Saeed Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Indeed, live meeting. Democracy is not just on the room. Democracy is practiced to be seen. Thank you, everyone involved, especially the officers, their support, and our administrations. They did work hard to bring it back quite long ago. Madam Mayor, there is no redundancy since we are in control. Plus, leader rightly said, created some apprenticeship. Madam Mayor, no service has been cut since we took it there. Will the leader agree with me? Seeing is believing. What we said, we have did it. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I hear that comment. I'm not going to comment on it, but thank you for that, Councillor Saeed.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next one is Councillor Simon Slater, Communities and Regulatory Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to present the report for Community and Regulatory Services. Firstly, I'd like to thank the officers for supporting me in this role. I'd also like to thank Councillor Louise Walker, who did serve as Cabinet Support Member until she became a Cabinet Member in her own right. The report is fairly self-explanatory, so I'm not going to read everything in it, but there are a few points of interest. Firstly, on the cost of living. So I'm happy to say that we have set up our food subscription service. We have 5 hubs across Burton and Uttoxeter, and so far this has proven to be a real success. So we went to the final practice session on Friday at the New Testament Church of God, and they will be set to start very shortly. Moving forward, we've mentioned parish councils tonight. We will actually be having a parish council forum on council reorganisation, because certainly from my parish council, they're very interested in this issue, and obviously it's something that has been raised tonight. We will also continue to monitor the success of the food subscription service. Obviously, it's only just been set up, but so far it has been very successful, and it has actually been oversubscribed in some areas. We'll also be reviewing the housing allocations policy, and there will be a report on that in July, I believe. And happy to take any questions on the rest of the report, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Locke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like a little bit of reassurance from the Cabinet Member in relation to CRS 01 Parish Council Forum events, that consultation with parish councils around the reorganisation of government will go beyond 2 meetings per year of that particular forum. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the Parish Council Forum has met twice a year. Obviously, the Parish Council Forum won't be the only place where parish councils are consulted on council reorganisation, but it is obviously one of the places where the consultation will take place. Obviously, the leader has outlined tonight that there will be a wider consultation.
Any more? Okay, thank you, that's noted. Councillor Dennis Fletcher, Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like my predecessor, I would like to thank all the officers for all the hard work they've put in making my job so much easier. Some years ago, I sat where you're all sitting and listened to a cabinet member go on for what seemed like eternity, and it encouraged me to congratulate him on the unique achievement of making the summary of his report longer than the report itself. So I can promise you I have no intention to do that. The report is quite lengthy, and I actually did a summary of the report, and that in itself is quite lengthy, so I'm going to summarise that. However, I think the real problem, time-wise, is not going to be the length of anybody's report, but more members standing up from both sides and repeating things that they've said many times before, sometimes repeating things that they've already said while standing, repeating things that other people have said, and I suspect they will continue to repeat things again and again throughout this agenda. So, car parking initiatives. following a consultation with residents to understand their payment preferences, we found out that it remains, whilst it was payment by cash was diminishing, it does remain a method of choice for many users. And as a result, we procured a new fleet of parking ticket machines to provide a universal payment officer. We also looked at number plate recognition and whether this could be introduced, but concluded that the introduction of ANPR would be kept under review for a number of years and for a number of reasons, including its current incompatibility with app-based payments. In Bloom, we've got a tremendous track record in this borough. This year, Burton and Winshill both featured in the national awards, with Winshill winning their urban category. And this means that Burton, Uttoxeter and Winshill have all reached the national finals on 2 occasions. And I'd like to thank Mike Overs and the Outdoor Spaces team, and particularly Paul Steed with the horticulture team, who have helped Burton to achieve gold on 20 occasions. The horticulture team developed its horticulture offer at both Burton Statenall Cemetery and the Go Garden in Uttoxeter, establishing tree nurseries at both sites. We also considered the impact potentially replacing glyphosate with alternative methods of dealing with weeds, and I'll come to that again later on in my report. In tackling enviro crime, we have, in order to provide a dedicated response for the removal of fly tipping, we've procured a vehicle that will be suitably equipped to be able to move fly-tipped deposits as efficiently as possible. And delivery of this vehicle, combined with additional staff resources, will strengthen this dedicated team. We've had a target set by the government that local authorities will deliver separate weekly food waste service by the 31st of March next year. The council's developed an implementation plan last year and provided an update on the progress being made for this new service. The procurement of dedicated food waste collection vehicles is well underway, and work has commenced on the procurement of food waste caddies and external containers that will be distributed to all households in readiness for the new service. Following the decision in May 2024 to implement a subscription-based garden waste collection service, the council subsequently launched a public consultation to help shape the service. This led to a first-year charge of £40 per bin, combined with an early bird offer of £35 and a further 50% discount for households in receipt of income replacement benefit. Up until last Friday, 21,393 households had subscribed, resulting in an income of £818,000, which will do a lot towards helping us achieve all of our environmental targets. As part of the Council's heat decarbonisation plan, energy audits have now been commissioned. This has guided the Council's decision-making for heat decarbonisation across the Council's buildings. The Council has supported its neighbours and provided a forum for discussion and ideas by setting up a Parish Council Climate Change and Nature Recovery Conference, utilising the existing Parish Council Forum. Alongside this, the Council has produced an education programme to help individuals, parish councils, schools and other organisations calculate their carbon footprint and understand how to reduce it. This year, the Council has worked to prepare for the delivery of additional burial capacity at Statenall Cemetery. Once completed, burial capacity will be increased at the cemetery, ensuring burials can take place for a number of years to come. The objectives for 2019, I don't intend to read these out, but I'm just going to mention one of them. During 24-25, the Council considered the impact of potentially replacing glyphosate.
Councillor Fletcher, can you just move the mic back down again? Sorry.
Do you want me to start again? No, this. Council considered the impact of potentially replacing glyphosate, a widely applied weed killer, with alternative methods of dealing with weeds. The Council will work with its grounds maintenance contract to trial the reduction in the use of glyphosate and at a pilot location in Uttoxeter. This activity forms part of the roadmap aiming to minimise chemical usage on council operation. Whilst we always aim to reduce the use of chemicals, it's important to point out that there has been a lot of misinformation on the effects of glyphosate. One update on the current position is as follows. The UK regulative body known as CRD, Chemicals Regulation Directorate, has always been very pro-glyphosate. When the UK left the EU, they gave glyphosate, which is glyphosate, I know, a 2-year extension, which was due to be renewed in December, which will be renewed in December 2025. However, within Europe, glyphosate has had a politically more difficult ride in some countries. In Europe, the approval of glyphosate was due in December 2023. Following the inability of politicians to make a decisive decision, the approval process fell to the EU commissioners, who followed up science to make the decision. Glyphosate was reapproved for a further 10 years and not banned, as some people would prefer you to believe. Some other useful, conclusive statements were made. The assessment of the impact of glyphosate on the health of humans, animals and the environment did not identify critical areas of concern. In 2022, the European Chemicals Agency, ECHA, carried out a hazard assessment of glyphosate and concluded that it did not meet the scientific criteria to be classified as a carcinogenic, a mutagenic, or a reprotoxic substance. That doesn't mean to say that we're not going to continue to try reducing the chemicals we use, including glyphosate. And that is my report. I welcome any questions.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question on the glyphosate usage and the ambitions of the grounds maintenance team. How is that compatible with the citizens' jury, and what is the purpose of the citizens' jury if the grounds maintenance team are already going to undergo a programme to reduce and remove its usage?
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Fits in very well, actually. In order for the citizens' jury to come to conclusions about the usefulness or otherwise, or the harm or otherwise of glyphosate, they need to have some evidence that we can provide, and by showing, and also on the costs, and by doing different things in Uttoxeter and Burton, we can compare the two and then provide that information to the citizens' jury to come up with their response.
Okay, Councillor Wildman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say how delighted I am with the Open Spaces team. Councillor Fletcher, would you like to put that over to them? I think our In Bloom competitions and things like that we've done, and we've got to congratulate Winshill. They keep going on and on and on. It's fantastic. So it's really observations, really. I want to say fantastic. In Bloom team, Open Spaces, fantastic. Really, really pleased to see more wildflowers coming in in the open spaces, as in Cumberland Road, I think it's noted on there. Very, very happy, because we all need the pollinators, we all know that. Glyphosate, well, you know, the jury's out on that, and I totally agree there are different ideas of what is good and what is bad, but I think it's good that we're looking at it, definitely. Personally, I would like to reduce it by virtually completely reduce it, but I know county, it's got to be a national thing, really. But thank you anyway, and continue the good work with the open spaces in particular.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Wyman, for those kind comments. I will certainly pass your views on to the officers concerned.
Councillor Hussain, is it a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. May I expect full face support from the Cabinet member for the Anglesey in Bloom initiative? If you can recall, he was very keen on to run this program when we were in the opposition.
Thank you.
Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I thought it might be a miss of me not to mention another one of Councillor Fletcher's targets, ECC 20, create a new viewing area overlooking the washlands. And I turned to Councillor Jackie Jones. I made you a promise. I've picked out the spot and it's going to be delivered. Thank you, Councillor Fletcher.
Yes, well, was that Councillor Jones's idea? Yeah. So congratulations on that. The officers and I have met at the site. It is a suitable site. It may mean the trimming of 1 or 2 young trees, but any reduction in trees, young or old, of necessity or not, will be replaced by an equal number of trees and more in order to keep up our carbon capture.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next one is Councillor Chowdhury for Finance and Treasury Management. Can I just remind councillors to keep their reports under 10 minutes?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like previous councillors, again, I don't wish to go through the whole of my report, but it is my privilege to stand before you today to reflect on the achievements of the council in 24-25 and to outline our objectives for the year ahead. Despite ongoing economic challenges, we have made significant strides in financial stewardship, service delivery, and income maximization. These efforts have been instrumental in ensuring that the council remains financially stable while continuing to provide high-quality service to our residents. So in terms of the achievements for 24-25, the Council has remained steadfast in its commitment to strong financial management. We have actively engaged in government finance consultations, particularly regarding the local audit backlog and local government funding settlement, advocating for appropriate financial outcomes for our authority. Given the unpredictability of the funding environment, we have undertaken a thorough review of our capital and treasury management strategies. This has ensured that our procedures for setting aside funding to repay debt remains robust and effective. We have refreshed the medium-term financial strategy to enhance awareness of financial risks, supporting information, decision-making, and sustainable maintenance of reserves. In the last 12 months, we have completed the audit of our accounts for the last 3 financial years, and thanks to the support offered by Chairman of the Audit Committee, we were able to close those accounts, especially some of the legacy accounts that we inherited when we took control of the council. Recognizing the challenges faced by our residents, the council has prioritized service improvements. We have advanced the implementation of a revised revenues and benefits system. A comprehensive review of our local council tax reduction scheme has been implemented, ensuring it remains robust, affordable, and better targeted to support those in need. public consultation has played a crucial role in shaping amendments to this scheme. Additionally, we have maintained our commitment to processing benefit claims swiftly and accurately, ensuring timely assistance for our residents. The Council has continued to uphold strong financial performance by maintaining collection rates, reducing arrears from previous years, and enhancing the collection of overpaid housing benefit. In terms of the objectives for 25-26, the Council will continue to engage in government finance consultations, particularly concerning business rates, funding reforms, and devolution. We will further review and update the capital and treasury management strategies and the medium-term financial strategy to address emerging financial risks. A budget consultation will be undertaken to support transparent and informed decision-making regarding financial sustainability and reserves. With the successful implementation of our revised revenues and benefits system, our commitment to processing benefit claims quickly and accurately remains steadfast, ensuring continued support to our most vulnerable residents. The Council will persist in its efforts to maximize income through improved collection rates, reducing historical arrears, and enhancing housing benefit overpayment recovery. Strong debt recovery performance will continue to play a crucial role in maintaining the Council's financial stability and supporting essential services. At this point, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the finance, revenue and benefits teams for their dedication and hard work. Their contributions are invaluable, not only in delivering customer-facing services, but also in maintaining the essential financial operations that keep our Council running smoothly. In conclusion, Madam Mayor, the achievements of 24-25 have set a strong foundation for the year ahead. As we move into 25-26, our focus remains on financial prudence, service excellence, and sustainable revenue generation. Together with continued dedication and strategic foresight, we will ensure the financial health of our Council and the well-being of our community. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was so proud to see go to the street of Anglesey and assure the residents not a single kid can go to bed with an empty stomach. Thanks for the administrations for the support towards the charities and the groups. Something I am, as a Labour councillor, so proud of. Madam Mayor, through you, may I ask the Cabinet member how challenging it was not to become another bankrupt Birmingham or debt-ridden, highly debt-ridden Stoke-on-Trent as a council?
Any other questions? No?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, we know that we've gone through over a decade of austerity. We've had funding cuts from central government. I think it's something like 78% cut, or around £8 million in total, when you put it together with the not increasing the council tax. So it is difficult. It has been difficult. It continues to be difficult. As I said last month when we approved the MTFS, we still have 1 year's settlement. There are other financial risks and challenges regarding business rates resets and other challenges that we have. So it is difficult, but nonetheless, obviously, I think we have sort of prudent financial management. We have a very good team within sort of finance department. We have some good investments. We are able to utilize the money. We are able to extend that money. We are able to, more importantly, we are able to prioritize the areas of greatest need. So you recall that we had, when we took over the council, we had Village Enhancement Programme, which had £750 allocated to be spent, and I don't blame them, to be honest with you. That was a priority from the previous administration to spend the money in their areas. Unfortunately, they didn't target the areas of the greatest need. So we came along and we changed our program to water enhancement program. We doubled the budget to £1.5 million, and we were able to invest that money and make significant improvement in most deprived areas of the borough. But we didn't actually implement a policy that where all of the money was channeled to certain areas or wards. We actually made it a borough-wide program. So we continue to do that, and our focus remains that, you know, we will actually prioritize the area which are in poverty, deprivation, and where, you know, and our vulnerable residents, wherever they are across the borough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Councillor Chowdhury. So, Cabinet Member for Regeneration, Councillor Paul Walker. Okay, sorry, Councillor Paul Walker, Tourism and Cultural Development. In case it's not clear, I'm going to come back to Councillor Louise Walker, and I'm asking Paul Walker to come first.
I'm not quite sure where I am there. Right, if I take tourism and culture first, I think I know where I am with that one. First of all, I think like everybody else, you've got to thank the officers and everybody who's worked on those reports for the work they've put in. I could say you've seen the reports, is there any questions, but I think there's a few things that I just need to draw your attention to. 23-24, the council commenced an options appraisal on insourcing council services.
Speak into the mic, sorry.
Sorry, I can hear myself. The work continued through the first part of 24-25. The council appointed some consultancy support to determine whether insourcing was a viable option. It is thought that services will come under direct council management in November 2026. If I move on to the Sonic Boom Festival, we are built on the success of the initial Burton Music Collective Stimulant project, which started to shape a new music-led narrative in Burton-on-Trent. This was showcased by Sonic Boom Music Festival in September 2024. It was attended by thousands of residents and visitors. The partnership between Sonic Boom CIC and the Council has since been shortlisted for a national LGC award in the public-private partnership category. The Market Hall. During 24-25, the Council undertook a tender exercise to deliver improvement works to the Market Hall roof and the supporting structure. This work was aimed at securing the longevity of the building to allow it to continue as a valuable space in support of businesses and the provision of entertainment. Following the receipt of tenders, the Council has had to consider how and when these works can take place, given the ecological and budgetary constraints. For those who don't know, I'll probably draw your attention to the Medicide, and due to the hard work of some of the staff, especially James, who's over there, and his team, who managed to secure the funding following the successful bid to the SPSF Phase 2 scheme. The Council was awarded $530,000 from Sport England to provide a carbon reduction scheme to the Medicide Leisure Centre. The project is now complete with 740 solar panels and complementing LED lighting upgrades across the facility, contributing to significant energy savings. Also addressing health inequality through swimming, 196 free places on the Learn to Swim, a 6-month scheme with weekly swimming sessions delivered from the Medicide and Uttoxeter leisure centres. The objectives, going back to Sonic Boom, developing the success of the Sonic Boom Festival in September 2024, the Council will be supporting the delivery of a second festival in 2025 and a third in 2026. This key event builds on a music-led approach to cultural regeneration and placemaking, acting as a catalyst for tourism, economic activity, employment and education within Burton-on-Trent. Going back to the Market Hall, a report developed by external consultants was undertaken, and the Council will consider the report and develop a business case and approval to identify the operation of the Market Hall. Works to complete the refurbishment of the Market Hall roof will be undertaken during 2026, following the completion of the procurement exercise. These works are required to be delivered during a specific time frame. And just covering leisure, the initial 10-year term in our sports and leisure partnership with Everyone Active is moving into the latter stages of the contract period. The Council will be working with Everyone Active to build on the success to date and consider the opportunities for extending the contract beyond the initial 10 years. The artificial turf playing surface at Thomas Lanes High School in Uttoxeter is nearing the end of its lifespan, and the Council will be working on a capital project to replace the current pitch. The Council has a number of 106 allocations available to it to enhance sport and leisure provisions in the Borough. The Council has identified enhancement at Oldfield Sports and Social Club, Shobnall Leisure Complex, and in addition, assessment opportunities for the Brampshall Park grass pitch. And that is about it from me, so any questions?
Any questions? Councillor Jones and then Councillor Locke.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I just ask that you actually include in tourism the great facility that we will have in your other portfolio July 25, which will be the washlands. That's, and most of us went and had a look at that and see what progress was being made a while ago. And it was such an impressive site. And I'm sure that by July 25, when we've got all the boardwalks and all the water and rain and all the problems that we had being sorted and solved, it's going to be a huge tourist attraction. And I would hope that we will be looking to promote that in our tourism activity throughout the year, really. And I don't know whether it comes in this one of your portfolios or the other one, but I just think we should actually congratulate the officers and all the staff that have been involved in that project, because it is looking like a superb project for Burton. And I hope that, you know, we will promote it, so not just in Burton, but or East Staffordshire, but actually as a regional attraction, because it should be really, really good. And I thank Councillor Fitzpatrick for actually remembering what he did promise me, and I'm so pleased to see that he's actually putting the viewing platform on the other side of the river. So thank you.
Okay, Councillor Locke.
Thank you. Just a quick one. In relation to TCD 11, safeguarding the Market Hall, given the target says complete the refurbishment of the Market Hall roof, can you just confirm that includes both phase 1 and phase 2 of the repair works to the roof? Thank you.
Yes. I think the short answer to both those questions, and certainly Councillor Jones, is yes to the congratulations and yes to the promotion, and also yes to the Market Hall.
Okay, Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Promoting tourism, will the Cabinet member agree this administration's, the Labour group has took a step towards the right directions by giving £35,000 to Uxbridge Street Community Centre and £45,000 towards the Hazara Centres and £1.6 million for the sports centre facilities. That means this not only attract the people who are living in the borough, and also they are attracting the people from other town as well in various festivals, which were long overdue. At the same note, can I also ask the Cabinet member, will he join and congratulate all the volunteers, including the officers, for the huge successful festivals of Sonic Boom? Thank you.
Councillor Bev George.
Just to comment on the Uttoxeter Sports Hub, you know how long and hard we've all fought for that. And I know in your report you've said you'll update us, but can you update us on a regular basis on that one, please?
Yeah, yes. It's slightly frustrating. It's sitting with Staffordshire FA at the minute. It's not. We're certainly not holding it up, but yes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Walker, I've seen some literature in Uttoxeter this week where it's been said that £400,000 is to be spent or has been spent on Pennycroft Sports Facility, but I can't see anything in your report. Am I seeing things or have I misread things?
Not seeing the literature, I'm not too sure. Just going back to Councillor Hussain's point, Sonic Boom, yeah, I would welcome any thanks to the staff. Certainly the staff at the Brewhouse in the Tourism and Leisure Department. I was there on the day for virtually all day and see the work that they put in, along with the Market Hall staff. They worked extremely hard. I think there was about 5,000 people in the marketplace, and it put a buzz around the town, and it's something we're looking to continue for the next 2 years.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Walker. Can you do your report on regeneration now?
I thought you was going to say that. Sorry, you'll have to bear with me now. 23-24, the council comment. Oh dear, am I on the same one? Look, see, look. I'm getting mixed up with them. Following the council's purchase of the former co-op building at the Maltins, it has taken forward plans to regenerate this key town centre site. It has recently completed the purchase of the Maltins precinct without requiring a compulsory purchase order. Improve the washlands and regenerate as a regional attraction. Work has commenced on the Washlands Enhancement Project, create an environmental asset for residents and visitors. Complementing this, the Council has progressed the development of plans for the Washlands Visitor Centre. Plans have now been submitted comprising of a new build riverside facility. The Burton High Street project 24-25 has been a significant year for this project. The Council has been able to finalise concept plans for the project and undertaken a series of engagement events with the public. The planning application for the project was submitted late 2024, which is now being reviewed by the local planning authority. The Council has also submitted an initial application to the National Lottery Heritage Fund for up to 10 million of funding towards the Brewery Heritage Centre and Social History Experience proposal at Bass House. Plans were also finalised for enhancement of the Gardens of Remembrance to create an enhanced open space works. Works are due to complete in spring 2025. Regeneration for communities during 2024-25, the Council delivered the final year of the original UK Shared Prosperity 3-year programme, providing grant funding for communities through the Ward Enhancement Programme and a range of business grants funding through its commission partners, as well as the Council's own Boosting Business programme. Objectives for 2025-26, progressing with the purchase of the Maltings and the submission of planning application, where key steps in taking forward the regeneration of Uttoxeter. It will be important to deliver interim improvements to the Maltings area to ensure the buildings do not sit vacant and dilapidated whilst plans are developed. Therefore, the Council will commence works on an interim phase for the Maltings that will include an immediate retention of retail presence in the High Street, the appropriate demolition of the wider precinct, the improvement of pathways and lightings, new green space and seating in place of the buildings, the necessary vehicular infrastructure to secure pedestrianisation of the High Street. This measure will create an attractive open space to be used for events and activities while work continues on delivering long-term plans. The Washlands as a regional attraction. Much of the Washlands Enhancement Project was completed in 2024, and during 2025 the Council will be finishing off the Washlands Enhancement as well as concluding the Gardens of Remembrance improvements, with both being completed by June. Following these completions, the Council will be commencing work on the Washlands Visitor Centre, subject to obtaining planning permission and appointing contractors. This will involve a 12-month construction programme that creates a visitor and education centre in conjunction with Staffordshire Wildlife. As with the Maltings project in Uttoxeter, the first milestone if planning permission is approved is agreeing a delivery plan for how the different components of the project will come forward. Linked to this will be the Council's consideration and confirmation of operations of food and drink hospitality as Bass House and the potential operators at Carling House, which will look to appraise in July 2025. Following the successful expressions of interest to the National Lottery Heritage Fund in 2023 programme, the Council will be submitting the next stage business case application on the design and development of the Bass House Brewing Heritage and Social History Experience. Have I finished? Yeah, I think I've finished.
Any questions? No, thank you for that then. And last of all, Councillor Louise Walker with planning policy, which I'm sorry was not on my agenda here, even though it was on everybody else's.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, councillors, if you don't mind, I'm going to stay just where I am. Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank the officers, Tom, Naomi and all the planning team for their support, advice and welcome, albeit I'm only a temporary support here until Sheila takes over in May, then really helped me with this role. The planning policy portfolio is a small but important role of the council, with the responsibility for the local development plan and related planning policies. Over the last year, we have aimed to deliver a high-quality planning service through introducing a new determination performance targets, introducing an updated pre-planning advice service and updating an important supplementary planning document. We also completed the annual review of the local plan, assessing how it complies with national planning policies, which duly changed again just a few months ago. To help with the work going forward, we have expanded the membership of the Development Plan Committee to ensure there was a greater level of democratic input and oversight into any work associated with the local plan. During the next year, again, the focus will be on completing the annual review of the local plan, this time taking account of any secondary regulations arising from the Levelling Up and Regeneration Acts, but also the implementations of the Planning and Infrastructure Bill that was recently published. If this is approved, therefore, it will be important for us to respond to the proposed changes and reforms throughout the year, as and when required by the government. In order to strengthen our local policies, we will undertake two important pieces of work. The first will be to review the existing supplementary planning documents and remove those that are no longer relevant, such as the Bargates Development Brief from 2009. The second will be to agree a plan to safeguard important heritage buildings in the borough through the creation of a local list. This work will involve identifying important non-listed heritage assets and establishing additional protections to them during their local significance. As this work will take place over a number of years, the first step this year will be to approve a plan creating that list. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions? No. Thank you very much, Councillor Walker.
Thank you.
So I propose to do item 10 and then go to an adjournment. So we'll do that first and then we'll vote on an adjournment. So I invite the leader to present the corporate plan refresh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members, as I said earlier, you know that the cabinet member statements put together virtually form this document, and there have been chance to ask questions, but the corporate, for the benefit of residents that might be looking, the corporate plan shows our residents, partners and employees the council's intentions for the year ahead and beyond, setting out how we will work together to support our communities. This year's corporate plan continues to seek to help people facing difficulties with the cost of living, develop a greener borough, tackle environmental crime, protect our heritage, and support our local economy and regenerate both of our towns. As always, we will report progress in delivering targets on a quarterly basis throughout the year, and we actually will also reconsider as part of this the implications of reorganising local government. I have to add, I think, that, well, I just might add that you'll remember last month when we brought the MTFS that we did show growth, but that it has mainly been restricted to statutory and unavoidable service growth areas. Council is in a better position than many councils, but we're not loaded with money. So growth has been limited in the last few years. Some of us will remember in the early years, you could come with a manifesto and decide, you know, big committee would decide where you're spending the money. Those days are long gone now. Some councils, as you know, have gone to the brink. Others don't have the resource they need. Ours is limited, but there is growth. And last year there were more growth, but it's challenging, and that money is not always going to be there. So financially challenging times, we fare better than most local authorities, but the challenges will remain. We will not have the opportunities going forward that we've had the luxury of having in the past, but we will do what we can. We are committed to improvements for our residents, businesses, and our communities. Madam Mayor, with that, I'd like to ask Council, I'll move it forward, that we approve the local plan, corporate plan, and 24, 25, 26, and I seek a seconder.
Thank you. So Councillor Fitzpatrick's proposing, Councillor Dennis Fletcher is seconding. Are you reserving your right to speak? Yes. So anybody want to speak on this item? No, thank you. Councillor Fletcher, do you want to say anything? No? Councillor Fitzpatrick?
Nothing more to add. It's as I expected. We've done the debate already. The questions answered where they were required. I do ask that all council members try to support this. It's what we can deliver in this year ahead, and hopefully we'll get some more years to deliver more.
Okay, all those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? So that's carried. As time is getting on, I'd like to propose that we have a 10-minute break. I'm being told I can do that without going to a vote, so that's what we'll do. If you'd like to please stand. Hello everyone, are we all back? Yep, okay, please be seated. Okay, so we're up to item 11, annual reports of the chairman of scrutiny committees. I believe Councillor Fitzpatrick wants to say something.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, due to personal reasons, both Councillor Hadley and Councillor Smith are unable to attend tonight to give their reports. So I'm making the suggestion to Council. I'm led to believe that Councillor Allen has been briefed on this and is supportive of it. Might I suggest then that, might I suggest that the chairs of scrutiny, if there are any questions from members of the council, that they do them via email to all. It's a bit unfair to ask two others to come up and speak, and when the others haven't had the opportunity. And I would ask maybe that council just receive and note these reports at this point, giving us more time, conscious of the fact that we only have 1 hour left till the time runs out. Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That seems a good suggestion to me. It gives us time to move on to the two motions. Okay. Councillor Allen.
Madam Mayor, I just want to clarify. The Chief Exec told me that the leader was going to propose this. No way did I agree that at all. Just want to clear that up.
Would you like to comment?
Yes, through you, Mayor. I'm not sure you had any objections to it either, but I can appreciate why you might feel that way. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Allen.
Just simply because I didn't have any objections doesn't say that I'm also agreeable by it. We are 2 years into a Labour administration that listens to us not at all. So, with respect, there's no point in objecting to anything.
Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Well, Madam Mayor, I must apologise for trying to give the Leader of the Opposition some credibility in this process. I won't make that mistake again, but I do ask that perhaps Council consider what I've suggested.
Okay, so I have made a decision and we are going to move on. If anybody has any questions, could you please put them in writing as soon as possible? So, item 12, I invite Councillor Allen to put forward the motion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move the motion. Do you want me to speak to it now, or?
Do you want to speak to it now?
Yeah, if I'm moving it.
Well, let's have a seconder then. So we have a proposer in Councillor Allen and a seconder in Councillor Clark. Councillor Allen, do you want to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think we got lost on the previous item 8, and I need to be clear at the very outset, because this motion I noticed is quite so similar to item 8 and into the topic of the discussion as well. So let me be clear. The motion that I've put forward makes clear that we must respond to government, and on that particular aspect I'm very supportive of. But we don't have to do so quietly, as I mentioned in the member briefing or the question and answer session that we had. We don't have to do so quietly, and I don't believe that we should be doing so when if we're quite so opposed to it, and quite so many members are opposed to it, I don't see any reason why we can't draw attention to the concern that we have on so many different aspects, particularly around pace and the timescales that the government are proposing. The other concern I have is that the report ties us to a north-south divide, which this motion on notice simply starts with evidence-based approach to the best approach in responding to government from the get-go, and doesn't set us on a predetermined path. This motion means we would start with the evidence-based approach, and that means we would start with what is best in the best interests for residents. The leader also mentioned in the previous debate a discussion that I had with him on the telephone. So I think it's only fair that I clear up the comments that I made to him in that phone conversation. I personally am quite supportive of a unitary council and unitary councils in general. I think there's a lot of benefits to unitary councils. I'm quite willing to have that debate with members, even members in my own group. When you have a council, when you have a situation where one council in two-tier, where one council is responsible for waste collection and an entirely different council is responsible for waste disposal, clearly things are going to go wrong. And things have been difficult since the situation has occurred in 1972, when we've had a two-tier arrangement since then. Open spaces, and lots of members will have lots of examples of where so many open spaces and grass verge and green areas are responsibility of the county council, and then so many open spaces and parks are also responsibility of the borough council. Surely it would make more sense to have one council solely responsible for open spaces and public areas, and then local planning and strategic planning. Local planning is controlled and responsibility of the borough council. The strategic planning is the responsibility of the county council. Indeed, many of the large-scale applications and the large-scale allocations that are set out in the local plan, and when we're considering local large-scale applications in East Staffordshire, as through the planning committee, much of that work and a lot of that work cannot happen without the cooperation of Staffordshire County Council. So surely that is also another good example of where a single tier authority has benefits. But these are my views, and I've not been asked about this. We are simply going at a pace at which we don't have time to have these discussions, and I have grave concerns that this, as I mentioned earlier, that this will lead to a situation where so many services stop delivering for residents. And when you consider that we have that the company, the county council, and presumably any unitary council that subsumes it or comes after it, would have responsibility for health and social care and education, perhaps the most important services that residents rely on. Any problems or service delivery issues with those kind of services have dire consequences, quite literally. So this motion intends that, don't believe that this motion is in contrary to the now approved motion on notice that has been put forward on item 8. I think it complements it. It simply asks that we start with an evidence-based approach, and that we can when we write and we in our work, when we write and build that proposal up, that we also tell government and explain at every opportunity and every juncture that there's a lot of concerns that we have with the pace and timescales at which we are being asked to put forward. And to answer Councillor Hussain asked why the leader of the Conservative Party nationally is silent on it. Well, I have no idea why she's silent on it, frankly, and I don't really care. We're taking the lead, and supporting this motion means that the council can take the lead on any discussions around reorganisation and devolution in East Staffordshire as well.
Okay, I'm being advised the monitor officer needs to speak.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Councillors, I'm aware that some of you serve as county councillors as well as borough councillors, and given the nature of this topic, I would urge some councillors to exercise some caution, because there's potentially a conflict when it comes to those councillors who are also county councillors, because of course they receive an allowance for being county councillors, and that's regarded as a pecuniary interest. What I would say, as the monitoring officer, I haven't provided dispensation for this yet. I think it's okay to debate and discuss at this stage, but come November, when we have to make an actual decision, I think at that point a dispensation will have to be used so that those county councillors can participate and vote on that particular item. And I noticed Councillor Hudson was referring to a vote before. Want to finish, thank you, Councillor Hudson. And so yeah, I hope I've clarified the position there. What I don't want to be hearing going forward is discussions as to what's happened at the county council. Doesn't belong in this chamber. Here as borough councillors today. I suppose that's the point that I'm making. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, good. Councillor Hudson, you just want to make a quick statement?
Yeah, just a quick statement. We've been advised by our monitoring officer that there is no conflict of interest, and we are allowed to debate here at ESBC as well, and that is the advice that all of the county councillors have been given. We've been told we don't need to express an interest in it.
Okay, thank you for that. So we just remember we're debating this motion, which is about ESBC. So, Councillor Clark, do you want to reserve your right to speak? Yes. So, does anybody else want to speak on this motion? Councillor Fitzpatrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Generally, I can support the majority of this motion. After our member briefing last Thursday, I think we were all sort of singing from the same hymn sheet, so I can support it. But I would like to highlight that Councillor Allen just said that this motion complements the item at 8 on the council report, the local government reorganisation paper with the recommendations. So he said it complements it, yet he's expected us all to support this motion, but you and all your colleagues voted against that report. So how can it complement it? I don't understand that. So you've heard contradictions from Councillor Allen, just, you know, that they are contradictions. I will support it, but I'm going to move an amendment first, Madam Mayor, and I move the following amendment that we delete the last paragraph that begins with the word finally.
Thank you. So we have a proposal that we delete the last paragraph, which begins finally. Could you just read out then where you want to delete?
The last paragraph that begins with the word finally.
Yeah, do you want to just read it so we know what we're deleting? It's just so everyone's clear.
Yeah. Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm suggesting that we delete the last paragraph, which is finally we note with concern the suggestion in the City of Stoke's proposal that Uttoxeter and other surrounding areas may be absorbed into a highly indebted Stoke City unitary area, risking a reduction in services for those East Staffordshire residents to prop up the finances of the current City Council. When you get a seconder, I'm quite happy to speak to that amendment.
Can we have a seconder? Councillor Fletcher. Okay. You can do that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Speaking to the amendment, part way up in Councillor Allen's motion, he says that this council commits to working with the other Staffordshire authorities to examine the evidence for different proposals. So in other words, he's asking me to work with the other 9 leaders of the Staffordshire local authorities. And at the same time, in that paragraph, which could be interpreted as insulting to the leader of the City Council and certainly to the residents of Stoke City Council. I've already told Councillor Allen that the fact that I've told him the joint interim plan, draft plan, being presented to the Leaders Board on Wednesday does not contain any references to parts of East Staffordshire. So this paragraph, insulting as it is no longer necessary. And I think with that gone, I can support this motion.
Yeah, Councillor Fletcher, do you want to reserve your right to speak? Yes. Does anybody want to speak?
I'm just saying to George, Mayor, that it comes back to him. the amendment process come through.
I can't see anybody else wanting to speak. Councillor Fletcher? No? In that case, we move to the vote. So we're voting on the amendment. I'm sorry, back to Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I came to the council meeting tonight with a pre-printed motion on notice, which did exclude the final paragraph, but in the end we decided to submit it anyway. I did so because if there was any part of this motion on notice that could be seen as contrary to item 8, then it was surely that one. I don't quite agree with the leader that it's offensive. It is only true. Stoke City Council is highly indebted, and it would be inevitable if there was a merger between Stoke City Council and other districts and counties around it, then money would need to be would need to flow from those areas into Stoke City, or it wouldn't Stoke City Unitary Council anymore, would it? But it would be inevitably those debts would need to be balanced. So it is only true, although never intended to cause any offence. So I'm happy to support the amendment, and we'll remove that paragraph.
So we're now voting on the amendment. All those in favour of the amendment? All those against? Any abstentions? That's carried. So now we're moving back to the main motion without the paragraph. Any further speakers? No. Councillor Clark, did you have anything to add? No? In that case, we'll move to the vote. Councillor Allen? Okay, so you're not raising your hand. Okay, can we vote? All those in favour? All those against? Any amendments? Any abstentions? That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Move to item 13, which is Councillor Clark's motion. Do you want to propose it?
Do you want me to speak to it now? Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll take the motion as read on the agenda, and I'd like to move the motion in regards to the funding of Branston Bridge. This is following on from conversations that I've had with residents, county councillors, my other Branston councillor colleagues and county councillor colleagues as well as the question and answers from the leader of the council. As I stressed at the last council meeting, the future of Branston Bridge is an urgent issue which all of us should be taking seriously, and I think it's the utmost that this council sends a strong message and shows the leadership of what we want to do to try and resolve this. The last estimates in terms of the long-term future and the repairs of the bridge to actually rebuild it put the cost of that scheme at 20 to 30 million, a cost that can only ever be met with the help of government funding, given the resources and the limitations on resources that the county council currently have. And this is an issue that, as we know with the glacial pace in which government funding moves, is an issue that if we're not realistically securing funding within the next 5 to 8 years, is going to be an issue that's kicked down the road longer and longer and longer until it becomes an issue where it isn't resolved. And I think with all the discussions we've had tonight around local government reorganisations, I think it sets an even more pressing precedent that we do need to take this issue seriously and start that work now in order to progress that. We spoke a few years ago about the Towns Fund deal funding as once-in-a-generation investment into the Staffordshire area. And that was funding that covered 4 or 5 different projects of varying scope and size. This funding would be the single largest investment we've had for a single project within Burton or East Staffordshire for several years. like even the broader Staffordshire area, and for such a significant piece of infrastructure within Burton, I think it's vital that we start that groundwork now and come together. And as a borough council, even though we're not responsible as the authority to get the funding or commence the works, that we show leadership in bringing those various bodies together to put pressure on the government and to try and make that change. As we've seen with the current closure, it's brought Burton to a standstill several times throughout the day, going on for months. An example that I had last week is in just the short journey from my house to the train station, a journey of no more than 2 miles, it took me 45 minutes to travel that short distance just to get to the train station. These are issues that are impacting residents day in, day out. They're impacting businesses day in, day out. Businesses, particularly around Branston, have had to scale back and cut down on jobs because of the impact of the bridge closure. And this is an issue that's also having a disproportionate impact on those who struggle to travel, on the vulnerable, on the poor, and so on, as we've seen with the difficulties in terms of the bus services. I'd also like to thank the county councillor colleagues as well, who have worked on getting temporary bus services and bus routes with minibuses in place, but it's still having that disproportionate impact. The motion itself seeks to do 6 things, none of which I think put an onerous bearing upon this council. So in the first instance, it is simply stressing our desire to actually secure funding, and this needs to be government funding rather than falling on the balance sheets of local government. The second one is around conducting an impact assessment on the impacts that the bridge has currently had on local residents and on local bridges, not just from kind of an economic perspective or a social perspective, given that this has driven a wedge through the community of Branston, but there are also significant kind of climate impacts that it's had as well by all of the standstill congestion that it's brought to the wider Burton area. The third item of the motion calls for an urgent funding strategy, and this to be developed with all authorities involved. It's a particularly complicated issue given the need to get Network Rail involved, the utilities, the county, the borough and the parish, and also the bus companies to make sure that we resolve those issues. The fifth item in the motion itself, I think also states that role and leadership that East Staff Borough Council can play in solving this issue for the long term and to get a long-standing solution for residents. That particular area has been of long concern for the residents of Branston, particularly with the closure of the rail crossing on Warren Lane, that has put an undue pressure on that bridge from a pedestrian aspect, and given the age and the current structure of the bridge, and given that the fact that it is a major route for school children as well, there are definitely enhancements that can be made for it from a pedestrian and a cycle perspective, as well as general road safety and speed management, of which we can play a vital role in consulting with residents, businesses and stakeholders to ensure that we get a solution that works for residents. And then that final point doesn't put the onus on East Staffordshire Borough Council to actually do any of the work, but it does show that we're willing to take the lead on such a serious issue, and that we're willing to help drive that forward with the relevant authorities and keep both this council and the wider residents of East Staffordshire informed on the progress being made. So I hope that there's nothing too onerous in here, and that councillors across the chamber can support this, given that it is such a vital piece of infrastructure for Burton and would represent one of the largest single investments that we've had in the town for several years. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So are you proposing the motion?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Is there a seconder? Councillor Allen, are you reserving your right to speak? Yes. Right, I'll open it up for debate. Councillor Afsar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'd just like to respond to Councillor Clark's motion regarding the Branston Bridge. So whilst being a fellow councillor of the Branston Ward with Councillor Clark, I just find it a bit surprising now that it's sort of the bridge issue started in August 2024, 2024. And it just seems a bit late bringing this motion up to full council now when things are sort of in motion. So as Councillor Clark will be aware that obviously the MPs involved, the county councillors significantly involved with all the stakeholders in order to initiate processes moving forward. Councillor Clark mentioned safer pedestrian cycling access. He'll be aware that the project for such was initiated and subsequently delayed by his party at County Council. This is a project that promotes active travel, and I'd suggest he contacts County Council regarding this. So moving on to the 6 points Councillor Clark mentions. Firstly, securing funding and recognising the risks. He'll be fully aware and should be aware that East Staffordshire Borough Council cannot seek government funding for the bridge. The bridge lies with Staffordshire County Council, not with the East Staffordshire Borough Council, and it's crucial to understand the roles and responsibilities of each authority in this matter. As far as prosperity for residents being affected, the leader, as far as I'm aware, and the chief executive are fully aware of the situation and are in contact with all the stakeholders involved. Around point 2 regarding the proposed impact assessment emphasised by Councillor Clark. Just pointing out that the County Council and the local MP are fully aware of the implications the bridge is having on residents, businesses alike, with daily commuters. They've been in proactive communications in understanding how this situation is affecting residents, businesses and daily commuters. Moving on to point 3, concerning a clear funding strategy. It is fundamental to recognise that this is the jurisdiction of the County Council and not the Borough Council. So the appropriate funding strategies have got to be designed and agreed upon by the lead authority, not East Staffordshire Borough Council, which includes close collaboration with the MP and other relevant stakeholders. And considering the services that have recently been sort of looked upon that run under the bridge, it's not an overnight task. Moving on to point 4 of Councillor Clark's motion, so cross-party approach. I assure you, Councillor Clark, that all parties that have a vested interest in the bridge are in active communication regarding the necessary actions. There's a weekly sort of stakeholder briefing that we get. I certainly do as a county councillor. If he's not receiving it, I can pass it on to him. I myself have had many meetings with the county council, the MP, and all parties recognise the importance of collaboration, understand that everyone involved is aware of what needs to be done. Moving on to point 5, suggesting that East Staffordshire Borough Council should take a leading role in this matter from a personal point of view. I don't see this as a feasible option. It would be inappropriate for ESBC to intrude into the county's affairs without the necessary background knowledge and experience that they hold regarding the bridge history and data. Finally, on point 6, regarding the appointment of a cabinet member to oversee these efforts, I believe that this would only create unnecessary confusion in an already stable situation where works have commenced and hopefully giving the bridge up to 10-year lifespan, and in that time the County Council and the MP and all stakeholders will have established communication channels amongst themselves to move this issue forward as fast as possible in order to alleviate the delays and frustrations being caused to residents. So finally, I just cannot see, well, I can't help but view this motion as an election statement lacking concrete framework for action. All relevant stakeholders are fully aware of the requirements that are needed, and recently we've had open days, we've had meetings organised by the Labour MP Jacob Collier to discuss the pressing issues. In addition, the County Council regularly issues stakeholder briefings to keep all members informed. So in conclusion, I can't support this motion, and I encourage Councillor Clark to communicate with the colleagues in County Council and urge them to expedite the process of building a solid case for the MP to present to relevant ministers to seek funding. As we are all aware, the previous government has left us with fiscal constraints, and there's now no open chequebooks available for us to draw down a figure of 20 to 30 million. No funding will be entertained unless a fully costed case is presented, which must come from the Tory-led Staffordshire County Council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any speakers? Okay, Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just echo what has been said by Councillor Arshad Afsar. Just quickly want to mention before I stand, I sincerely condemn those who is using this Branston Bridge and vilify both sides of the council house in the social media and stuff, where we got no jurisdictions or anything as such. Reality is we need 25 to 30 million pound today. When if you start today, you need to think about at least 3 years, including the consultations as well. And whatever party we are, we must admit and acknowledge the effort of the county councils, what they are doing in this. As a borough council, I'm standing here as my loyalty, of course, to the borough council. I'm saying that we can only be associate with them, but we cannot lead this project because this is not our jurisdictions as a borough council. And I thank Councillor Adam for recognizing our effort for this contingency bus service, which was really, it is proven to be a very good move, especially for the pensioners and others. And moving forward, I reluctantly cannot support your motion just because the work has been going on, and it is our duty, as leaders mentions, the best for the East Staffordshire residents. So we would like to support the county council's initiative, and wherever possible, we would like to lobby, either with the local MP, of course we'll do. And also, there is another big stakeholder here is Network Rail. The bridge itself is Network Rail's land. So they cannot just shy away from their own responsibility as well. 186 years old bridge, so we need everybody's support on this. And as a borough councillors, of course, I will do my level best to lobby with anybody. And this is not just for the residents of Branston, it is affecting the whole town as well, especially in the area I represent in Anglesey in the East Staffordshire Borough Councils. Many residents, they got to use their GP in there, and it's a gateway to our town as well. And on this note, Councillor Adams, thank you for generously acknowledging our effort for the bus service, but I'm afraid in that case, I have to support and acknowledge the County Council's initiative, and on this note, I cannot support these motions. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else want to speak? Councillor Allen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yet, for all of Councillor Ashraf Assad's comments, there's still a great deal of concern, and a great deal of concern that not enough is being done, and that is why Councillor Clark has raised it in this chamber. He hasn't proposed that the ESBC depart with £30 million to make these improvements and to make the bridge safe, or to spend any great deal of money on his thought. It is simply to join the conversation and the discussion that he says is already happening, you know, perhaps this is too much to chew for Councillor Ashfar, but it's not too much for Councillor Clark. I think the council should support this. We're only asking to be included in join that conversation, which is already happening. Councillor Clark's motion is about taking the lead on things, and I'm very happy to support it.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's very disappointing to hear some of those comments, I think particularly from Branston councillors as well. I think the idea that this is some electioneering from myself for an election that I'm not even standing in, I think it's quite frankly ridiculous. I also think the notion that this is something that myself or others are spreading over social media is also ridiculous. I myself am not on social media, so I've no idea what goes on in that space and unsure where that's come from. Just to address some of the points in here, I think it's interesting that we say we can't get involved as an authority because it would create confusion and we're not the authority that would handle the money. Yet then we're also saying that how important it is for others to get involved, such as the MP and Network Rail, and have that group effort without ourselves. I think it very much feels like a shying away from the Borough Council of actually taking that leadership. I mean, similar to what we've seen from the corporate plan today, in that lacks ambition and leadership within a local space, that this has now been extended to this issue here. This is such a vital issue, and we've all stressed from all the comments in terms of there isn't a blank cheque from government. It's a very complex issue involving a lot of stakeholders, and the urgent need to get it sooner rather than later, given the 10-year lifespan. And I think the fact that a motion here which purely states how strongly this council feels in regard to that can't even be supported, and doesn't put anything onerous onto the council itself that would cause confusion, other than saying that we're going to speak to residents and businesses and local stakeholders, is quite frankly quite confusing, unless it is so benign to assume that the Borough Council would speak for and represent local residents. So very disappointed that the Labour group or some in the Labour group find that they can't support this motion, although I can't really say that I'm surprised for it. But rest assured, even if this motion is defeated tonight, I will still continue to fight for the future of Branston Bridge, both in this chamber and across the council through our scrutiny committees as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Right, I'm going to move to the vote. So those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. And those against? Any abstentions? So the motion is defeated. Okay, we're moving on to item 14, which is questions, and we've had one question from Councillor Sankey. And you've got the written answer here. Do you wish to raise a supplemental?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor, if I may. Can I thank Councillor Chowdhury for his response? And just to clarify, I am not whinging, and I'm only concerned about the residents of this authority. The question is, the County Household Support Fund has 6 schemes of support that support disadvantaged people. Which scheme are you referring to? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I think I need to, I thought I gave quite a comprehensive answer, but I think I need to add some clarity to my response for the benefit of Councillor Sankey. Let me actually just run through his question, so just to be absolutely clear. First of all, he mentions the usable reserves, but thanks for acknowledging that those reserves have been allocated already. He then goes on to say, oh, actually, by the way, if it's in his gift, he would reallocate that funding to different areas. But it doesn't say which areas would he allocate those monies to. But I can assure him they are this council's priority, and every single project is important, and hence why that money has been allocated to those projects. He goes on to say that he has spoken to his local county councillor, who confirmed that the county scheme was targeting vulnerable young families who are struggling with cost of living not pensioners. I have to remind him that the scheme that I referred to is basically household support fund. That money is given to the county council, not the borough council. In the narrative that I provided and highlighted in the answer, it says quite specifically that it's especially for the pensioners, and it makes reference to the winter fuel allowance. So he seems to he's basically what he's suggesting here is that the county council are not delivering on their policy statement, which I find quite incredible, really incredible. Last time when he spoke, he made reference to councils in Birmingham, Lincolnshire, and in London. This time, he's spoken with his local county councillor, who's told him verbally that the funding is not for this purpose. Yet, he does not make reference to the cabinet member who made the decision, who made the policy statement.
Madam Mayor, is this answering my question? Because I don't think it is. I just asked which part of the scheme is he referring to. He constantly avoids answering things, and I'm afraid all I want to know is which part of the scheme he's referring to, and he's just going a diatribe of this.
I'm sure he can answer that quite succinctly.
I will answer the question to his satisfaction. I want to dissect his question first in order to clear his clarification.
Councillor Chowdhury, in view of the time constraints we have, can you please do it quickly?
Madam Mayor, I'm coming to it. I'm coming to that. So he did not speak with the cabinet member for children and young people who actually made that decision. Now, he goes on to say that not elderly residents will be, in his question, he says that the council scheme is targeting young families, not elderly residents. Will be cabinet member consider his decision to reject the amendment, basically. That's what he says. No, I think he's quite wrong, actually, when he actually makes that suggestion. Like I said, I think he needs to, he's misrepresenting. He is misrepresenting.
This isn't answering the question,
He is
Madam
misrepresenting.
Can you please sit down?
Listen, I'm coming to. Listen.
Very quickly, Councillor Chowdhury.
Absolutely,
We've
absolutely.
got little time left.
Madam Mayor, the money that I referred to is the household support fund, which I have said previously, of which £900,000 is allocated to the utilities debt support, which is to support the vulnerable people, especially pensioners. Now, he has, he continues to not read the narrative which I have provided in writing and previously in the last meeting. Now, Councillor Sankey.
I think that's enough now.
Can I just make one point?
Councillor Chowdhury, please sit down.
Can I just
Madam Mayor, can I leave this?
Can I just make one final point? Can I make one final point?
Excuse me, Councillor Chowdhury, I've asked you to sit down. Yeah, I've heard a clear answer.
Madam Mayor, one final point. One final point.
Councillors, you'll not speak over the Mayor. You'll speak when invited to. Stop. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. You've both made your points, and we're going to move on now. I want to finish this meeting before 9:30. Thank you. So we're moving on to item 15. We're going to agree the member to be elected the 33rd Mayor of the Borough of East Staffordshire. So I invite the Leader of the Council to put forward the nomination.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have great pleasure in moving the name of Councillor Kim Smith, BEM.
Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Dennis Fletcher. I want to move straight to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? That vote is carried. Thank you very much. Item 16, to agree the member to be elected the 33rd Deputy Mayor of the Borough of East Staffordshire. Again, I invite the leader to put forward a nomination.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, great pleasure to move the name of Councillor Monica Holton.
And the seconder? Thank you, Councillor Louise Walker. I'm going to move straight to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? No, that's carried. Thank you very much. I now declare that this meeting is closed.